Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Paris Henriksen Show. Now, today's guest, you'll probably know her, but my mom, Kellie Lee, is actually on the show today. So, Kellie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me again.
So let's start off, for those that don't know who you are,
Yes.
start off by telling them a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you were on the show probably about two and a half years ago now.
Yes.
I think the first season. Damn.
Yep.
Okay. The
Yep.
first season. I thought it was season 2, but yeah. So give them what they want.
Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know, I wear many hats, I guess, like a lot of people.
Yep.
Overall, I'm a healer, holistic healer. I'm a published author, conscious writer, producer, certified coach and spiritual mentor. I was an international spiritual coach for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, lots of things I do. I know I'm very, very aligned and know my path and mission here on earth, what I've come back for, so we can get into that a little bit. But yeah, so.
Interesting. Okay. I think you left out a couple of hats there.
I probably
You're
did.
also a film producer.
Yes. I did say producer.
Oh, you
Yeah,
did? Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, also a film producer.
I've moved more into that space since I was on here last, so I can talk about that as well.
Yeah, so let's maybe start there. I will ask you some of the questions from last time just to see what has updated, what has changed. I normally do that with the guests that come back for a second round.
Yep. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I'll let you sort of guide this as to what you would like to talk about first, but...
So, for those that haven't heard the last podcast I was on, I'll just give a brief outline. So, basically, from a little child, I have always been very empathic, felt energy, was able to see angels, spirits, everything like that. Always knew from the age of 3 that I was back here. I was tapping into my wisdom and that I was back here for something different. I knew I'd been here a million times before. I knew that I was here for something pretty big in the terms of not to be better than anybody else, but just I knew I'd come back with a mission.
Right.
I was very in touch with the angelic realms, very connected to the sun, and at that age never really quite knew all the spiritual terminology, I guess you could say, that's out there today,
Right.
but just always knew that there was where I came from. I remembered I was actually more connected to where I'd come from than on earth. So I did struggle as a child and as a teenager in school. Nobody back then, many decades ago, the hippie movement had started in the late 60s and everything, but it was very, very different, to spirituality, put it that way.
Yeah.
So, as a child growing up, I was called nuts and a bit weird and a bit different, and but it was, and I guess then I grew more into masking the ego, as everybody does, to fit into society, all the programming, all the elite control, everything like that, and so on and so forth. So I kind of then went into my 20s like that, my 30s, but still connected to my higher self, my spirit. But as, really stepping into my path about 14 years ago and thinking, okay, all right, universe was tapping me on the shoulder so much, and it was like, what am I here to do, really? Like, let's get on with this, because time is a ticking. It's a ticking away,
Yes, and for the, I guess one thing that I can obviously share with the listeners, as y'all know, she is my mother, so I have seen the transition, and when I was a child, she was obviously a entrepreneur and working in the 3D world and all of that kind of stuff. So it wasn't until probably like the last 10 years when I was in my early 20s that she started to kind of go more the hippie route, the spiritual route, and then since then, obviously, you're at where you're at now, which is awesome.
Well, I started to really, I've always obviously with energy, I've understood it, but I really started to get into that more in using it in my everyday life and navigating from energy, like understanding we're all energy, everything around us is energy.
Right.
And as humans, we walk this path in a 3D reality every day, getting up, going to work, hanging out with friends, whatever we do, and we allow other people and energies to fragment our energy. Okay, we have many energy bodies, and if we are not walking in our space all the time with awareness and consciousness of what's around us, people, the way they're speaking to us, we're not respecting and honoring ourselves, not really going deeper into our self-love. That's a whole journey in itself.
Right.
And that's the journey I had to take many, many years ago. The inner child, I specialize in my coaching in inner child healing, healing from trauma. Every single one of us on the planet has trauma. No one's free of it. We've all been raised in a programmed society. There is all some type of, generational patterns and, and trauma there. So when we carry that baggage with us and we live from a fear-based programming, which is what we do, then, we just sort of, we loop and loop and loop in patterns in our life and we create from our programming, we create from our thoughts, and we think, why is this always happening to us? Why can't we change our life? Why are we living lack energy? Why? And it's because we're playing over the same thoughts in our head, the spell words, because everything out there is spell words. We have to be conscious of that. And until we take responsibility for what's happening, we can hear it, we can listen to a podcast about it, we can go, I want to do this, but it starts within. From ourselves. We have to take those steps. Not listen to what we can be taught from external situations, like someone listening to this podcast and going, wow, I never knew that, I never thought about that, I don't that's a higher perspective. Wow. Then you have to go off and now take responsibility to connect to your spirit, connect to your heart that is the portal to your soul, and connect deeply to create from that space in this 3D world that we still keep walking around in, that, yes, we're living in,
Right. And I guess that is something, because a lot of people don't know, and we have a ton of mutual friends that are healers and conscious creators and everything like that, and very, very, very popular, might I add. I guess one thing, because there's a lot of people out there that really probably don't even know what you said when you talked about everything being energy. So for those people that don't understand that, let's take it back, because obviously, we're at the level we're at, but there's a lot of people that are maybe just starting their spiritual journey, or maybe they're not quite understanding those things, or they don't know. So can you talk to us about what that actually means?
Yeah, so I guess that's it. We hear it, we may even hear it in school, although most of our schooling is indoctrinated. But we hear about energy is everything. We're all made up of energy. So we obviously have many energy bodies, a whole chakras and meridian system going on within this.
So what is that?
People don't
a lot of people
understand.
that wouldn't even know what a chakra system is, or a meridian system.
So, well, that's something I guess people are best to go and research themselves, because we can go really deep into that, and we don't want to take the whole podcast up with that. But basically, just to have an awareness that energetically, so in basic terms, I guess we could say that humans project their energy into an external situation, so projecting it onto somebody else. We have a responsibility to check on how we are treating other people, how we're projecting our energy out into the world. Okay, people, there's a lot of people that can be depressed or have anxiety, in a low vibration, things like that. When I talk of low vibration and high vibration, if people are not sure, and high and low frequency. So we basically live in what we call a 3D reality here, an elusive reality. Everything that we've been programmed, the way we think, the way we speak, the way we operate, the way we create.
What we watch on the television.
The media, it's all in indoctrination to keep us in a lower frequency vibration.
Yeah.
And the most important, disconnection from ourselves, disconnection from our spirit, and disconnected from
each other.
Yeah. Okay. And that is the big thing. When you look at disconnection from everything, and we feel like we're connected, but everything is happening in our reality is forcing us to disconnect further and further and further from ourselves, right? And others. Like people talk about social media, and they think, oh, we're all connecting. Yes, you can connect with others, but think about how you're connecting with others.
And also,
is it in a positive way? Is it in a high frequency way? Is it in a negative way? Are you trolling? Are you being disrespectful? Are you not honoring someone else's, beliefs or higher perspective?
Well, it's also, I think with social media, it's also like, as we all know, it's we're only seeing a snippet of people's lives. We're not seeing the, other side of it. You know, we're just seeing whatever the flashy side or the highlight reel. But
and us healers, we're here to basically awaken people to bring this universal truth. So we all have our own truth, but there's a universal truth. And people may have heard things of being labelled or what's happening in the world of like bringing in new earth, the age of Aquarius, the golden age, bringing back the golden age. They're all the labels of what we're here to do, to basically bring an unconditional love to this planet. It's been destroyed in so many ways by those that have control. So without I won't get into that, but we can only come back to take responsibility for ourselves, how we show up, how we create. Are you creating from a consciousness of a higher frequency, or are you creating from a low frequency? Are you creating from being vindictive and nasty and narcissistic, or are you actually looking at yourself and going, okay, I'm being a bitch. I'm being this. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I projecting this onto someone? Bring it back to you first. I'm not saying people out there can be like that to you. Absolutely they are. But they need to take responsibility of what they're doing. It's all energy. And humans are designed to control others through the energy, through manipulation. That's the biggest one. Okay, so you look at who you're surrounding yourself with in your life. Look at how far, have they done any inner work? Have they done any healing on themselves? Well, do they have a greater awareness of what's going on? And if not, even spiritual people, look, I mean, and none of us are perfect. We'll get triggered by things, but there'll be, I know there's spiritual people out there that have, hundreds of thousands of followers that I've watched. I've been doing this work before they even started coming up the ranks, and I've watched them, and they still have their own trauma that they're projecting out onto the world through their work.
You mean like LA Spiritual?
And
that place is whack.
Well, look,
I love it. But
there is also, and I do want to mention this now.
And that's the thing. Like, people actually, like, I'm not just the only one saying this. Like, that's actually a thing. Like, everyone's like, oh, LA Spiritual or normal spiritual?
Yeah, because people get on the wagon and it becomes a trend. It's not a trend. And unfortunately, that's part of the indoctrination of let's direct the spiritual community in this way because we can still control it. So the best way is to not listen to outside of you. It's always connected. So I guess from myself, I am very grateful that as a child I felt that true, authentic, divine source light. There is a false light grid that does surround this planet that a lot of spiritual people and thought leaders and people, very, very well-known ones in the world that everyone runs after. They're hooked into that false light grid. And for someone that's listening to this, they might say, well, how do you know the difference between the false light grid and the authentic divine source grid that we are from and connected to?
Well, you can tell. Like, there's an energy that the people give off that you can tell. And we're not going to name any names, but there's people even in our circle that we've seen change over the years, and we've seen them change and build programs and all this stuff just so they can receive financial freedom.
A lot of people do
and
it for money.
I love them to
Absolutely.
pieces, and they're wonderful human beings, but I've seen them just, you know, they've taken their business to 6 figures and then they're like, oh, how further can we go? But they haven't stayed in that light or the truth to themselves that they were in at the very beginning. They've let everything else kind of take over, or not even take over, but kind of control and like lead the path. And some of them I don't like, I don't watch their stuff, or I don't associate with them, and it's not because they're not beautiful people. It's just because they're kind of in that like false spiritual entrapment, I guess.
They're still they're connecting. They think they're connecting. They're still just, unfortunately, a lot of them hooked up to the, and I didn't mean to come on here to talk about other people, but hooked up. But this is interesting for someone to listen, because the people are going to awaken out there more and more and more as we move forward. And they're going to look for external help on how do I navigate, you know, how do I navigate my spiritual awakening? How do I navigate this? And they're going to start following people. And if you're not sure of the difference in the energy, you can get very caught up in the new age, you know, part of, so there's a difference. There is a lot of truth to the new age, but there is a lot of indoctrination in the new age as well. And a lot of that can come from people for wanting financial gain. So you just have to really be careful.
Yeah, and I think with that, what I would say is it doesn't really matter how many followers they have, because I think a lot of people, and even a lot of my friends that have sort of gone on their path in the later few years, they're like, oh, this person has 200,000 followers on Instagram versus maybe yourself or some of our other friends that have, you know, 10,000 or below or something like that. It's like, it doesn't necessarily mean that because they have, you know, thousands and thousands of followers, or 200K, 300K, a million, that they're teaching from the right space, or they're teaching from integrity. So I think just be mindful.
And they might not know that themselves either.
Right. And I think just be mindful of that when you're sort of looking for a mentor, or, you know, and we can recommend several in the show notes that we know and love, and, you know, that we have been through the trenches with, so to speak. But I think that it's interesting. So just be mindful of that, to the listeners
and
out there.
And you do feel it. And years ago I worked with a client that was hooked up to the AI technology, and
interesting.
And look, honestly, I saw things that people would just think, oh, you're a nutcase, like that just can't happen, and it can happen. She was living with me at the time. She was receiving direct energy weapons every day, like it was just crazy, and she asked me to help her. Now, I'm not going to go through that type of healing, but what I'm saying is, when I was working with her and healing with her, that's when you can feel in the energy the false programming, that false technology, that false light grid. And it's tried to clone the correct source energy, the organic, I should say, source energy, and it's just a bit off. So I think when the most important thing, if people are listening to this, watching this, and they're going to say, well, how do we know, is go in here. Go in here. If you are awakening and you connect with your heart and your soul, you can feel when you're watching someone, when you're listening to someone, does that feel off? Is that authentic? You know, if you're not sure, keep following for a while and see, and you'll figure it out. You know, it's very, even for myself, what I said from a little girl, I felt the energy. But there's times where I've been caught up too in that sort of new age, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? That feels a bit off. Let's, you know, maybe I should be doing this, maybe I should be doing that, putting myself out there, marketing myself this way or that way. It's never worked for me, and I'm like, Spirit, why? You know, but I'm not meant to be doing it that way. And then, you know, then there was a lot shown to me. So yeah, I am a sort of a master divine feminine back here on the planet to bring that divine masculine and feminine energy back in balance, inward and external, between the new divine love that's coming back together, the conscious relationships. So I have a awareness of that, and I've tapped into a lot of my wisdom about that. So with that, I should say.
And what do you mean when you say conscious relationship?
So the new relationship between not just romantic relationship, friendships, everything, it's going to come from a higher consciousness.
Right.
You know, it's not going to come from this trying to manipulate energy to control a person, you know, people pleasing, trying to put people down, trying to get what they want by narcissistic approaches or manipulation, or which is all energy control. Because again, you asked me about energy. Everything we're talking about here comes back to energy.
Absolutely.
We're all energy bodies.
Yep.
Okay. We are our spirit in this physical vessel.
Yeah.
Whether people believe it or not, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay. If you haven't reached that consciousness yet, that's okay. But that's what we are. So we have to realize that we are energy. And so we have to, again, take responsibility for what's happening around us, but also honor yourself and respect yourself enough to look at what's happening around you and not be people pleasing. And look, I was one of the biggest people pleasers. You know, before I really took control of my energy and how I project that, how I create from that consciously, I was, you know, I had depression through my lives. I had suicidal moments. I haven't all had it all, you know, in control. Not at all. Yeah, no, it's definitely not rainbows. A spiritual awakening is, if someone tells you it's all about butterflies and rainbows, that's definitely not how it is. But everybody that's taking
more
that
of a roller
path and know
coaster
that
than
it's absolutely
butterflies and
because
rainbows.
you're shedding your program self. You
Yeah.
know, you're going in and you're looking at your shadow side. Some people call it, you know, the shadow side. There's again, there's labels for it all, but it's that inner child healing. You know, abandonment issues, rejection issues, trauma. If people have had childhood trauma, abuse, all sorts of stuff. So, you know, that's a lot of things that our subconscious mind has just suppressed and blocked out. Yeah. And we block that because at that time when it happened, it's just too hard to deal with.
Right. Exactly, yeah.
And then as we get older and move through, we create from the mask that we've put on and block that. We create from that space. And that's how when people say, you know, there's bad people and narcissistic, they're just people that are unhealed.
Yeah.
You know, they're unhealed. So we're here to help them that way. And again, though, as a coach, I found that, you know, not everybody is ready to take that step, but when they're ready, they'll know that, you know, and they will look for somebody that they align with and they want to work with. And energetically, they feel drawn to, you know, to take that step and work with. So
there you go.
Yeah. That was a whole tangent that I didn't think we were going to go on.
That was great. That was great. So I'm going to, I guess, go through some of the questions to see what has changed a little bit. I know a few things that have changed. What are you grateful for right now?
Okay. So what am I grateful for? I think I might have kind of said this similar last time, but I really, what I'm going to say is, again, that even since I was on here last time, when I talked before about being a massive people pleaser most of my life, and being quiet and not having my voice and not speaking up and not feeling like I was ever heard, but knowing I was here for this and this role. And so as a divine feminine, I was afraid to step into my role. People thinking, you know, you're crazy, you're stupid. That's not as big a deal now because so many people are awakening on the planet that you know, but that always held me back. So what I'm grateful for right now is that I do finally feel like I don't care what people think anymore. And that was a big thing. You know, I used to rearrange my life and my things to care, because worrying about what people think. I don't give a toss anymore. You know, like I don't care what people think. Because I'm not here to please others, and I'm not here to get validation from others.
Yep.
And that was the big thing. I've spent most of my life thinking like, oh, you know, are they going to like me if I do this? Or, you know, and getting that validation. And I'm like, hang on a minute. I'm actually here to be one of the divine leaders at this time on earth. You know, I'm here with my divine partner, my divine masculine, to come together, you know, to bring in this new consciousness, love energy to lead. So why am I being a follower? You know, and anybody that's out there that's listening to this that feels this in you, like not everybody is here, like everyone's here for different roles. If you know you're here to play a big role in something, no matter what it is, step into that.
Yeah.
You know, step into that. Don't hold back anymore, because you're holding back to get validation from others that are actually not there, and you're the one that needs to step into it first to show others. You know, like you'll have family members and friends that might be totally asleep to everything and not awakened to anything. You might be the one that's chosen and had taken on that role. We all come in with a divine blueprint, a divine path, you know, a mission, whatever it is. And you might be the one that's here to awaken to that first, to help others. And that's what's happened to me. I used to look around and go, oh, well, they're not doing this or they're not doing that. I'll just keep quiet. But then not realizing
I did not get that from you, because I've never given a toss what
I know,
think.
I know, and you don't get that.
Care.
And that's and you have helped me in that, because
like you know, you could hate me and I will
as my daughter, I've watched you, and
like,
sometimes I'd think, well, that you're really like, you know, you worried about that person getting pissed off or whatever, and you're like, no, because I'm not here to people please.
Never been like that.
And that's what I love. So you've taught me that. So as my daughter, and don't only think like
people
honestly,
get that confused with like bitchiness and like whatever else. It's like, no, I just don't care. Like, I don't care.
And in this world, we have to be tough to move through in our role.
Completely.
You know, as long as you're not, you know, putting like dishonoring someone else or disrespecting someone else.
Yeah.
But we need to step into that role. And again, this age factor, whether it's age in relationships, whether it's age as a mother and daughter, you know, son, whatever it is. We think that, we can't learn from a younger person, or we can't be taught, you know, guided. I mean, that's BS, you know, and a lot of the younger generation are very consciously aware and awake, especially our beautiful starseed children, you know, that are incarnating now.
And we always laugh about this, because we were like, I was your mother in a past life. And vice versa. So there's some things that I'll say where she's like, oh yeah, you're right. And I'm like,
and I've looked at you in awe to go, oh my God, you know, this is my daughter doing what I've wanted to do in stepping in to my path fully and not giving a hoot about what other people think. So thank you for that. You know, you guided me welcome. That, and I think that's it. When you've been a people pleaser your whole life, it's hard to crack. You know, you come from a lack energy. Like, you're a people pleaser because you come from a lack energy. So you need to go back and go in. If anyone's listening to this, it's a people pleaser. You're doing that from a lack in yourself of somewhere.
Literally.
So where you need to go back in to your, you know, your own inner child healing and think, where were you not heard? Where did you feel you had to people please? What were you afraid of? How were you treated by your parents or those guardians and things like that? And that's where you find the core source of how you can heal from that. And then not being, because there's only fear and love. There's only two things. And everything that is not love, conscious, unconditional love, comes from a fear. Okay, no matter what type of life you're living at the moment, as anxiety or depression or feeling down about something, or your life's not going well or whatever. Okay, let's take charge. You know, everything. What are you afraid of?
Well, anxiety is a big one. That's definitely just all fear.
Yeah, and I suffered with anxiety for years and years.
Same.
And back then I didn't want to go on the artificial drugs or anything. So I did take a holistic approach, which helped me. Pardon me, I hadn't even fully stepped onto my spiritual path then, but I've always, you know, gone to the holistic route first for healing. I did study Feng Shui, which is energy and all sorts of things, but I just wasn't always using them in my life. And that's one thing I really want to stress to people watching and listening. Walk your talk. Okay, don't just live it at home. Go down the beach on your own and live it. Go and walk in a forest and feel it and connect and live it and meditate, or however you want to do it. Do it when you're on a bus, you're on a train, you're in the supermarket. Live how your connection all the time, how you're connected to spirit. Don't switch and change. And that's what a lot of people do. That's what I was doing for years. You know, don't lock yourself away and think, I can only connect like this, or I can only speak like this amongst my tribe. I've got to only hang out with my spiritual tribe to speak like this because they'll get me. No, they get you. They already know it. You need to show that to other people so they can awaken and they can get it.
And that's something that Hollywood is really good at doing. And even last night, like, obviously I was sitting there watching the Kelsey Ballerini interview that she's just done. And she was talking about how her whole album obviously was about her divorce. But a lot of it was also about people pleasing. Yeah. And she's been a people pleaser her whole life. And it's interesting because a lot of people, and I think that's why her music is so successful, because a lot of people don't share those things. Like, you share a heartbreak song or you share a breakup song or whatever. Yeah. But you don't go to that next level to kind of like go into the feelings and go deeper. So I think that that's really cool because it's definitely not something that Hollywood is good at doing. And I think you'll see like you see the transition now between a lot of, we were just talking about this morning with another one of our like actors that we know, and there's a lot of them that are now adjusting and posting stuff and talking about consciousness stuff and stuff like that, like not to name any names, but
let's talk about that. You asked about producing. So for me as a coach, I could reach one person at a time. As a conscious writer of books and screen, whether it's film, documentaries, TV, I can reach hundreds of thousands of people, hopefully millions of people. And that's where our paths crossed over. So you've got your path, I've got my path, and we know that they do cross over. And where they cross over is you being able to give me the opportunity. Okay, so I was a published author first anyway, and then you gave me the opportunity to then go into the space of consciously writing movie scripts, you know, screenplays, consciously bringing my awareness, downloading those light codes that I'm here to bring in my voice, in my words, on paper, you know, and what's going to be played out. So, you know, we're going to be making movies, and you know, we already have
this summer.
We already have documentary,
which next year.
Which I don't think I mentioned that because a couple of years ago we hadn't started the documentary.
We hadn't started the documentary. No. The documentary is pretty much all about the divine feminine energy. And then we will flip and do one for the masculine as well.
It's called the Divine Feminine Goddess.
Can do it as well. But that'll be out later this year, and you'll see some of our amazing friends, but also some other thought leaders and powerful women that are on that on that
have stepped into their power and using their power to consciously create,
and in all different aspects. Like some of them are complete hippies living in the middle of nowhere, to, you know, empire building women living in, you know, Vegas, or not Vegas, but like places like that where it's very
a built up place 3D. Where people would think it would be hard because I think a lot of people think we've just got to go and, you know, sit on a mountain and meditate. Well, no, it doesn't work like that, and that's
fun, but not exactly how it works.
That's what we're here to bridge that gap, to be able to do that, as I said, walking around every day in our everyday life. So you know, we're doing the documentary, and that was it. So a lot of people look at media and Hollywood and all that, but we are also here to change that,
right?
And be out there, whether it's podcasting, like I said, making conscious content through movies. It's that conscious
even the reality shows that we're doing all created from a conscious space, because it's even from a space of wanting to help others or expand people's careers or things like that. And, you know, and reality TV has traditionally not been that at all whatsoever. It's been how much drama can be told, how many villains can we create, you know, thanks to The Bachelor, that became a big thing.
And we're not interested in recreating that.
No.
We are creating, if you're talking about the reality space or whatever, what are people that are on that show bringing
and there's still
to the world,
like, of course there's going to be natural drama, there's going to be things that happen, fights, disagreements, all of that, so it's still going to be there naturally. It doesn't need to be created,
but
it's already there.
They come from a higher perspective where we can help people, and people on the shows help others to navigate that and to work through that, you know.
So I guess I will ask you, even though we've kind of discussed it, but what would you consider your mission on this planet to be?
All of the above what I've talked about. My higher calling is definitely, I said when I started, I'm a healer, and everything I've spoken about is healing. I can get into beyond the stuff, the planetary healing work I do as a gatekeeper, a grid keeper, and a grid worker. We're all light workers in how we're navigating things. Yeah. Before I decided to go more into the writing space and conscious creation that way to reach more people, I was doing a lot more psychic, spiritual work, planetary healing work, connecting with organic higher divine beings and things like that. So I did do that for many years as well. But yeah, so my higher purpose is basically everything I talked about, but the ultimate is bringing to earth this new divine unconditional love frequency of a higher consciousness, higher connected relationships.
Nice.
And that's what I'm here as a divine feminine, divine sacred feminine with my masculine to do it as a role at this time.
Cool.
Yeah.
What is your morning routine like?
So that changes. What I realize with routines is people can get too into a routine and stuck in their head, and this is where the limiting beliefs come in.
We talked about this last week when Tiara was on the show.
Yeah. So get rid of the limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
Allow your body to take over to what you want to do. If you get up and do yoga every morning, or you have your hot warm water, or you have your juice or smoothie, or whatever it is you do, do that fine. If you get up one morning and you go, my heart and soul's not leading me to that today. What do I want? Go with it.
Yeah.
When you are really, and I understand some people need that kind of regimented practice to keep on track.
I think it depends on your career and what you're doing. Obviously, if you're in a 9 to 5 and you only have an hour in the morning and you got to go from step 1 to 4, then okay, maybe that's what works for your day and your schedule. It may not necessarily 100% work for your soul, but it works for your day and your schedule. Then, okay.
It's like gym work. But are you forcing yourself to go to the gym for an hour before work because you're vain and you want to look good, or you want to keep up with, Tom down the road? Or Mary down the road? Or are you doing it because you want to move your body and that's how you want to move your body?
Yeah.
Would you rather move your body, dancing or doing something else? And so, so my routine would be more of just going with what I feel, but I always do try and do some intermittent fasting for a while, a few hours, and then I don't usually eat till around 11.
Okay.
But I'll always have juice, freshly squeezed or cold pressed juice. And meditate in different ways though, depending where I am. But I can meditate in lots of different ways, and that comes with practice. So
nice. Do you have any self-love practices or any tips that you want to share for new spiritual people or for ones that are seasoned?
How long is this episode?
Let's keep this short.
I know, short. Probably the best. Gratitude, definitely. So I always do my gratitudes and affirmations every day. And a lot of people will, once they've done them for a while, go, I don't need them anymore. Or, there might be some talk out there is, no, you don't need them. You do, because again, we're coming up against low frequency and vibrational energies around us every day, walking past people in the street, going to work, someone's had a bad morning, someone's depressed, whatever. You can connect through affirmation. And if that's telling yourself you're amazing, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're sexy, you're divine light being, whatever it is that you tell yourself. I have a whole course around this that I've had out for years, and one of the modules in there is affirmations.
We'll link it in the bio.
Yep, because it's so important. But so self-love rituals, you'd say, is always coming back to honoring and respecting yourself. Ask yourself every day when you do something or you allow someone to do something to you, is that honoring and respecting myself and my spirit?
Can you tell people what the difference is between self-love and self-care? Because I feel like a lot of people get that.
Self-love and self-care. You mean like as in...
Well, self-care is like the bath and the you know, the pretty clothes, all of that.
We can do that. We can read in a book, okay, we've got to have a salt bath.
Yeah.
We're going to do this. If you can stare at yourself in the mirror naked after your bath, before your bath, shower, whatever, and tell yourself over and over and over, I love myself. I love who I'm looking at in the mirror. I love myself. I love myself. If you can do that, it doesn't matter if you're crying because you're bringing up things or whatever, but that's the difference between self-love and self-care. Self-care we can do from
self-care is like a spa day.
Yeah, reading books. It doesn't mean, and we have a bath and get out, but it doesn't mean we're connecting.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't mean connecting to our heart and our spirit and what's really going on inside.
Interesting. How important is impact in giving back? And I know you're little Miss Philanthropist over here, so talk to us about that and maybe some things that you've done or things you have coming up that are along that line.
It's really important to me. I love animals too. I love to do what I can in that space as well. But it really does, as a human, I understand how the humans work, but it really does gripe me that people can have millions of dollars and they just don't use it in it because they're not conscious enough to realize. They're greedy. They're still in a greedy space.
Yeah.
Giving back is so important, but it's also so important energetically, from the perspective of what we give out and what we give back. What we give out is what we will receive back. So karma is very real. You know, you do someone wrong, it's going to come back at you in a very could not be in the way you expect. It could be in a different way. So the more it's an energy, right? The more we can make a positive impact in someone, giving someone, you know, a homeless person $5, whatever it is, adopting an animal, you know, whatever, giving a monthly donation to an incredible charity or something that's happening that, you know, that you're passionate about. There's so many out there. Find one and go and do it. Because, you know, you go and get your cup of coffee or your tea or, you know, get your Starbucks or whatever, but what's $20 a month or whatever it is, or $30 a month? So stop being selfish is my message to people and give back. Yeah.
What has been like your favorite give back experience or something you've done? And obviously I know that, you know, we've lived in Bali, we've lived in a lot of different places that are very third world, you could say, compared to, you know, somewhere like America.
Well, giving back, I've as I said, I've done a lot of those things that I just mentioned to charities and things. Do
you have like a favorite experience or a favorite thing that's happened? Maybe the turtles?
When I lived in far north Queensland, I was a volunteer at the Turtle Hospital, on an island out in the Great Barrier Reef. It was just so beautiful to get up every Saturday morning at 7 o'clock and catch the boat out there and be on this beautiful island that they had, the Turtle Hospital, all voluntary. And, we used to work with the turtles. I've done a lot of different things in my life, like lived in Bali. So I've worked with, it's obviously different, you know, it's still helping, but it's completely different.
Yeah.
You know, when the whole COVID experience was on for those couple of years, and Bali was very affected because there was no tourism. As you know, we have a driver, and that driver supports all his family and extended family. So we were sending him money each month and to help him. There's different things. At the same time, I'm all for, you need to look at your life to create, not just to take that handout, but how are you going to set your life up to be able to create that income in other ways so that you're not dependent and reliant only on one way, because when that's taken away from you, then what happens? You know, so I'm also not just about giving out the money or giving out the help. I'm also about, well, how can we, you know, have impact somebody's life to be able to understand, to then create a living, a sustainable living a different way.
Well, that's basically what happened with the pandemic, because as most people know, or a lot of people know, that Indonesia relies heavily on its tourism. Especially Bali. So all of our friends there, they either own, like all of our Balinese friends there or Javanese, they own cafes, they own restaurants, little dress shops,
they're drivers,
sidewalk stalls, they're drivers, they're tour guides. Like they do everything that's reliant on tourism. So for those 2.5 years when people couldn't get into Bali, especially Australians, because that's their giant influx of people is from Australia, they were basically screwed. They didn't have, you know, and it goes back to what you said of like, they didn't have other sources of income. And even with like, you know, we've had friends that have had shops in Bali and clothing stores and all of that stuff, and we still do. And they've employed local employees and stuff like that to help them. But even with a pandemic or whatever, they still weren't able to, because they didn't have, like, the shops weren't open, the things weren't open. So
it was just ripped away from them.
Yeah, you know, so I think that, you know, places like that do need to, like, their ecosystem is different. They need to figure out a way to not just rely heavily on their tourism, which is something we've talked to our friends and drivers about.
But this is what happens. Things do happen. You know, a negative thing happens, you turn it into a positive. Someone has to go through something to be able to make change.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be forced. It's like the universe and spirit will come in and force change. And it's interesting while you were talking, because spirit always guides the question, in that before I came on this podcast, I asked on my social media last night, I said, I'm going on a podcast. Does anyone have a question they would like me to answer or a topic to talk about? And somebody said to me, which I actually forgot, I don't do much anymore. They said, could you please talk? And this is someone that's followed me for a long, long time. And you know, we've had discussions and talks. And she said, could you please talk about the universal messages and guidance? Okay. And that's one thing. I don't channel a lot anymore, because there's a lot of channelers out there that are channeling from the wrong, as I said, the false light grid. And but I don't talk a lot anymore about being aware of those messages. Right. So how we even got onto that. But spirit will make the change, what needs to be. You know, sometimes something will happen and we'll go, oh my God, what is this happening to me? Always realize, if you're guided, something's being stopped in front of you, because that's not your path. Yeah. And that's not where you're meant to be going. And if you keep pushing and pushing and pushing through, it ain't going to end up well. No. You know, because that's not, and how many times have we done that? Okay. It's the same as when you're doing this work and you're shining your light. There'll be a lot of people out there that will just want to grab hold of you and use you for everything. You know, they'll suck the life out of you with the energy. They'll want your money. They'll want all sorts of things.
They want your success. Because
they'll be jealous, because that's where they are in their consciousness. They're not bad people. They're just unhealed. You know, so this is where you have to have that awareness. And when you said, you know, the greater message, I would say coming back to honouring yourself and trusting your wisdom, the messages you're getting. So when you are getting a message, because people say, well, how do I know it's a real message? How do I know it's not my ego just playing tricks on me? There's a difference. So your higher self, your higher spirit, and any higher organic divine beings that you're connecting with, and it's all in here, by the way. So anyone that's listening to this that goes, oh, you don't need to be speaking to that, it's all in here. But when we start out, we are guided with help. And so the best way to know is it unconditionally loving energy? Right? Your higher self will never criticize you, you know, speak nasty, make you feel rejected or low frequency. That your ego will do that. Right. You know, your little voice that talks to you inside, your mean girl, your mean boy, whatever it is, that will do that. Yeah. But your higher self won't do that. The difference is when you're tapping in, feel, is that really organic, total unconditional loving energy? Or is it a fragmented energy? Is there an energy too that it feels like, I'm feeling like crap? Right. You know, and that's your ego. Yeah. So so when we're receiving those messages, and be open and aware to it when you're out, be aware of you know, your external reality at that time. If you're seeing numbers, if somebody just comes up and acts like an angel and helps you out of the blue and then disappears. We've had that happen many times.
It's been hilarious too.
You know, I've had the most incredible, interesting and bizarre things happen in my life with that, you know. But if you ask the question, and we have to ask for help because we have free will.
Yeah.
So if we just go about our day and keep complaining that, if you want to call it God, creator, source, universe, whatever, is not helping, well, then you're blocking the energy, you know. So you have to ask and be open, not resistant. So many humans are resistant out of fear. You have to open the door. You know, they say as you close one door, another opens. So this is all everything goes back to the inner healing, because once you can release your limiting beliefs, trauma, you know, your abandonment and rejection energies, everything that you've got, you can start releasing them. Self-love, doing the self-love work. And that's so important. And then we can start coming out the other side and trusting ourselves, you know, honoring and respecting ourselves, not people pleasing, standing in our sovereignty and power. So everything you do, you want to get towards standing completely in your sovereignty and taking back your power, because humans are programmed to give their power away.
Completely, yeah.
Not go within and use it. In a conscious way to create from, to help, from kindness, caring, unconditional love, you know. But again, there's that balance of not getting, you know, shit on by people, basically. Excuse my language, but
no, everything flows here. What's your favorite place to travel to?
Well,
I don't know if I need to. I think I know the answer to this. But
I have a few. You know, I love Bali. I've lived in Bali. I love the Greek islands.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I don't really have one place. Again, I don't have limiting beliefs around things. I love going to Hawaii. I just love where my heart guides me. And that's another thing. I do move around a lot, although I'm feeling like now it's time to be more stable and have a base.
Yeah.
But I move around because I know that Spirit is guiding me with opening portals and doing work like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say Bali.
Yeah.
I think that's just the family favorite. I don't know if it's necessarily individually favorite.
Well, the last couple of years, I was looking at buying a place there to live.
Yeah.
So, and that might come back around again one day. Yeah. So,
what is your favorite quote or a favorite saying or something that
my favorite quote? It's not my quote, but is a quote.
You have a lot of great ones, but
yeah, I do actually myself have a lot of great ones, and I am going to do I'm in the process of it. It's just a few things I've got going on at the moment, but I'm in the process of doing like a coffee table book with my quotes. But it's the Anne Lamott, I think that's how you say her name, quote of lighthouses. So lighthouses don't go running all over the island looking for boats to save. They just stand there shining. We are all lighthouses. We all have the ability to be major lighthouses.
Yeah.
But the depth of that quote is, don't go running around trying to people please everybody and say, look at me, you know, stand there and be in your divine power and sovereignty, and that will attract, your light attracts people that way to help. Yeah.
I love that quote. There's so many great quotes out there. I can never.
There is. It's my all-time favorite.
Pick. Yeah. I think actually Sam asked me on one of my last episodes what mine was, because I asked him what his was, and I was like, then I just gave one because it was just like, I love so many of them.
Yeah. A lot of people do have a lot of different ones.
Yeah. What is your favorite song to listen to that inspires you?
Oh, wow. My favorite song to listen to.
And let's see if this has changed since last time.
I don't know what I said last time, but
neither do I.
What I really have been listening to a lot over the last couple of years is going back to I grew up in the 80s.
Yeah.
So going back to the 80s music. And that always, if I'm out of balance, I've had not a great day or whatever, it always brings me back to myself, that inner child. The 80s music was amazing. It wasn't indoctrinated a lot with like the music the decades after. The frequency is good. The frequency of the music is high. I just love the 80s music. Yeah. What did I say last time? I can't even remember.
I don't know. We'd have to go back and see.
I can't remember. But yeah, I think last time, actually, I think you might have said like, not necessarily a song. I think you said artists. I think you said like Pink and stuff like that. I've
and you
moved
may have
away
even mentioned like the 80s.
Yeah, I've moved away from a lot of that type of, like any one sort of person.
Yeah.
But that's what I do like. Yeah, I'll probably think of something after we finish this podcast. But
is there a TV show or movie or book that has impacted your life in a big way? Has this answer changed?
Yes. So on my spiritual path, definitely when I started, I was guided by someone, my coach at the time, to read and watch The Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman. Excellent. If you are starting your spiritual path. Incredible. You can, if you don't want to read the book, you can go and watch the movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Very impactful. Movie was pretty much before its time. I think it slipped over the top of a lot of people's heads.
Oh yeah.
So
it was also self-funded, so there's that.
Yeah, was it? Yeah. So The Peaceful Warrior, and definitely Celestine Prophecy is another one, and you can learn about energy in that as well. Like you can really get more of an understanding how energy works, and our energy body, projecting that onto others, so forth, then projecting it onto us. So I love those two. In terms of books, my soul's never guided me to follow thought leaders and a lot of spiritual people that way.
Yeah.
However, when I was writing my book and I was starting to like, can I put this book out? Because it's, puts a lot of myself out there. Yeah. My higher self said to me, go and listen to a man called Neil Donald Walsh. Conversations with God, which actually came out, I think, in the late 80s or early 90s.
Early 90s, I think.
Yeah,
they did the book and then they did the movie.
Yeah. And I've never been anything with the word God. I was never drawn to, because I realize now that religion, that's indoctrinated, that type of God. But spiritual is my path. So but it's actually should be conversations with spirit, really, because when you listen to it or you watch,
that's what he's doing.
Whatever, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. So I would suggest that as a go-to.
I think you did say that
anybody.
last time.
Yeah, conversations with God, amazing. Yeah. So what else? Yeah. They were my main three. I think I would tell people, to look at.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to do a few more questions. Most of the others you already answered. So if y'all want to know the answers to that, you can go back and
I
check
talk
the
a bit
previous
when I get
episode.
Passionate about subjects.
Do you have any tips for new entrepreneurs or anyone that is looking to start a heart-centered business?
Absolutely don't do anything unless it's coming from your heart, your soul, and your passion. If you're doing anything to make money, it is not going to work moving forward in these frequency times of what's ahead of us. The frequency on earth is changing. All of that old slavery template of working and creating from greed and money and power is going to be gone. It's just crashing down as we speak. So if you want a successful business, you want to be a successful your career, entrepreneur, whatever you're doing, make sure it's something you're very passionate about, that you love waking up and going to do every day. If it's a grind, if it's a hustle, it's not going to last. You're just going to waste your time and energy.
Yeah.
So You know, if you're in a job now that you don't like doing, but you need that money to support you, start doing your passion on the side. If you in a situation with a family and you can't flip over to your passion because you're worried you're not going to make enough money, you know, start to do that part-time, that sort of stuff. Work with your heart and soul. A lot of people, you could ask a question to anyone out there and they'll say, oh, I've loved this. This is my hobby. I've loved this for years. I really feel this is where I should be. Yeah. Well, that's where you need to focus. That's where you need to focus. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. So you have a new book out, or shall I say we have a new book out.
We do.
A new children's book.
New children's book.
Called The Preppy Cat.
Yes.
So you want to kind of talk a little bit about, because this is probably going to be one of our only opportunities before the next one releases in that series. But do you kind of want to tell people what that's about and what it was inspired by? And we'll link to it in the show notes as well, so y'all can go and get it. It's available on Barnes and Noble and basically anywhere that you buy books.
Yeah. But
we'll put specific links.
We also have some other separate things coming out as well. So watch out for that as well. I have another book, and I've been asked to do a kind of a course or a masterclass on conscious writing. I've had a lot of people come to me lately and say, I'd really love to write my story or write a book. And
so what is the book about, though, The Preppy Cat?
But The Preppy Cat is about our actual pets, our beautiful Daphne, our cat, and Charlie, our dog. And, you know, I used to meditate, and they would be with me. They'd be out there when I was doing my yoga in the backyard, you know, and the connection between our pets is so sacred and beautiful because they're already in that higher consciousness. Yeah. So we wanted to obviously bring stories to children from that higher consciousness and awareness to be able to bring them into that energy field. Like there is another lot of books, like a children's series that I'm doing, called the New Earth Children's Series. But it's all about that. And
this one we're going to have 3 books, I think, maybe 4.
In
this one, the next one probably will be out towards the end of the year.
So this first one's more about, well, you could share it if you want, but the first one's more about sharing and kindness.
Yes. Because Daphne and Charlie were like the best of friends.
Yeah,
and traditionally,
as a dog and cat,
you know, cats and dogs are not friends. But it's all about that, and all about kind of like, you know, making unlikely friends, or being friends with people who maybe, you know, society tells you shouldn't be friends with, or things like that, and kind of allowing that to, you know, and then we've done it in a very cute format.
We have. You
know, very easy read, very great for children, children of all ages, but probably more so like 4 to 8, I would say. But if
and we've written them and all of them that we're going to be doing in the format of taking the children out of that old programming, you know, and giving them the awareness and of the way, you know, we're going to write it, and they can connect back to themselves, and won't give too much away. I'm trying to say
no, that's
not
fine.
Too much away,
but y'all should go read it. It's
Yeah.
very cute to read at any age, but especially if you have grandkids, kids, nieces, nephews, all of it. But
and by the time this podcast is out, my book might be out, my second one, which is titled Raised to Your Divine Self.
There you go.
So there's going to be a lot of incredible stuff in that.
Nice.
Knowledge, wisdom, make a huge impact on people's lives. So it's taken me a long time to write it and get it together. For that reason.
Nice.
Just want it to make a huge impact.
Well, we'll make sure we link to everything. We'll also link to your social media. What is your social media for those that want to follow?
Well, you can link, so Kellie with an IE, Kellie Lee 1111 on my Instagram and on my YouTube. I don't have Facebook. Don't do a lot of the other stuff. I'm on Telegram, but you can link to them underneath.
Awesome.
And my website and things. So, and the documentary might be almost out.
The documentary will be out later this year.
Yeah, but follow on definitely so that you can see when these other things come out. That we've been talking about.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. It's been a treat as
always. You're welcome. Thank you for having me back on. And
yeah, of course. And we'll see what happens when you're on the show in a few years from now.
Yeah. Gone from here.
When we're like 5 years into this thing.
Yeah. Yes. Well, the movie will be out and everything will be out by then.
A lot of stuff will be out. Yeah. So we'll see them. But yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for having me.